Pregame show. I'm here with Ken Tyler and Denver Diefenbach. Ken, we've seen 4 different starting quarterbacks for the Javelinas, and none of them have really separated themselves as a consistent starter. Who can we expect to see this week under the center for the Javelinas?
Well, actually, I just got word a little bit earlier that we will see Caleb Bedford, this freshman who started last week's game, made his first start. This will be his second start as a Javelina quarterback. He didn't do terrible last week, but we did see a few freshman mistakes from him. He was 52% on his passing, 9 of 20. He did have 2 interceptions, but both of those interceptions were freshman mistakes, honestly. He overthrew a guy and underthrew one man that the defensive back just came back and made the play on. But he does show the bright spot of being able to rush. He is actually third in quarterback so far after his first start with 68 yards gained, and that's behind Aaron Bueno and Alex Rios, who both did a very good job before. Rios getting hurt and Bueno being benched for lack of ability to pass, just saying. But he shows a lot more upside, I believe, on the throwing into the ball of the offense than Bueno does, so he gives him a better shot in that aspect. But the things that he's going to really have to do this week are get the ball out of his hand quick. He's a lot more accurate when he gets the ball out of his hand quick, much as his counterpart on the opposite side of the ball in Tyreek Rollison, who does a very good job of being accurate when the ball's out of his hand quick and letting his receivers work. As we've seen in the past and we've talked about a lot, is these weapons that he has on the outside, and he needs to just get these. He's got 4 to 5 guys that have the ability to just make these huge plays in open space. He needs to get there, get the ball to them, and let them do the work for him. And the biggest thing for him tonight is going to be establishing himself as a runner, but also establishing himself as a passer. With this wind here, it might be a bit of a problem at certain points in the game, but he's going to have to do a better job of passing the ball and being accurate with the ball and understanding protections, especially with these big defensive linemen that he's going to face tonight on the Commerce Lions defensive front.
Yeah, Ken, besides the quarterback issue, the running backs have kind of been all over the place too. Not quite as consistent just as the quarterbacks, but Greg Petrie leads the way. The freshman has 26 carries on the season for 230 yards. 2 touchdowns, and he averages 8.8 yards per carry, mainly because of an 87-yard breakaway had against McMurray. So that's the longest run of the year for any Javelina. Following up on him is Cornelius Shackelford, who he didn't quite play. He didn't play in the first 2 games due to injury. He was a linebacker for the Javelinas last year and really made a good transition here as a running back for the Javelinas. I mean, he runs with some authority. So he has the most rushes for the Javelinas this year, 40 rushes, 187 yards. Only 4.7 yards per carry, but he's been hit quite a bit in the backfield and is really able to break away and get something out of nothing. An expert at really making something of nothing. The guy runs like an absolute hoss, and he also has 2 touchdowns on the year.
Yeah.
One other running back that we'll probably see tonight after the Javelinas. Well, you'll probably see several people getting touches, as you talked about our quarterbacks really liking to run the ball. But Anthony Washington started this season off. He's been battling some injuries, but you might see him get in and get a little bit of carries as well. He's got 19 rushes on the year, 132 yards rushing on the ground, 6.9 rushing yards per carry, which is pretty solid to go along with the touchdown. So overall, the running back standpoint, they're getting some good yardage. I mean, we've talked about Shackelford, one of the beastly runners of the 3, averaging 4.7 yards per carry. You can't go wrong with that at all. But going to the wide receivers, or that aspect, as Ken said, we haven't quite seen a lot of passing yards out of the Javelina quarterbacks. They're only averaging a little over 100 yards per game in passing, but it's led by Robert Armstrong, senior Robert Armstrong, native of Cuero, Texas. He's got 21 catches on the season for 156 yards to go along with a touchdown, a 17-yard long. But Armstrong is 26 catches away from breaking the all-time record here for receptions at Texas A&M University Kingsville, and he's 4 touchdowns away from tying that record for the most touchdowns. So definitely one of the biggest playmakers this year, and somebody that these young quarterbacks that Kenneth just talked about really getting the ball out to him. But big senior captain Derek Tesh, he's only had 4 catches this year for 45 yards and a touchdown, and they came at some good times. He's really able to find holes in the defense and sit there to go along with. He's a big guy, really good at blocking and fitting into the offense that the Javelinas run, but also a real good target that these young quarterbacks need to look for. Also look for other Javelinas such as Clyde Lee, C.J. Griggs, and of course the running backs. Javelinas like to run some of those quick screens and little out routes to Petrie and Shackelford, but I mean, that's been pretty much your playmakers for the Javelina offense.
But the biggest thing has been Petrie out of the backfield. He was converted from a running back from a wide receiver, to a running back.
Right.
And he's second on the list right now. He's got 5 receptions.
Yeah, right behind Armstrong with 21. So that just shows you what kind of target Armstrong is. 21 catches for Armstrong and 5 in second with Petrie, and then you got, I believe, Clyde Lee and Derek Tesh each having 4. So.
Well,
the longest wreck thus far was to Shane Prater was just 32 yards, so we will have to see if they can gain a bit more tonight.
Yeah.
To put into perspective how slow the start the Javelinas have had, they've averaged 22.5 points per game, 223 rushing yards per game, 103.5 passing yards per game, total of 327 yards per game offensively.
Yeah.
10 offensive turnovers.
Yeah, they've had the 11 touchdowns, which is it's really hurt them though. The 10 turnovers is killing them also.
Having a 1 touchdown, 1 turnover ratio is big.
It's pretty rough. Yeah.
But with that on the other side of the ball, we talked about how the Lion defense is ranked in a few categories nationally. Denver, who are their big players?
Well, Tevin Moore, he's a senior defensive end, 6'1", 260 pounds, real athletic man, big guy on the outside of the defensive front there, but he's actually 15th in the nation right now in sacks per game. He's got a sack per game. He has 5 on the season to go along with his 29 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, which puts him at 12th in the nation in tackles for loss. So, of course, he's first in the conference at his position and at what he does. To complement him on the line is Charles Tao. He's done an amazing job too. A big man, 6'3", 310 pounds. The nose tackle, the junior nose tackle, really clogs up that hole there and is able to really get to the quarterback and put some pressure on the opposing quarterbacks as well. He too has 5 sacks and is tied with Moore in 15th in the nation for sacks, and he's got 9 tackles for loss. So half a tackle for loss shy from his fellow teammate Moore. But they've been a big, strong front there that's really helped to make other teams kind of make adjustments to allow other playmakers on defense to make some plays. But you'll also see Frazier Tao tonight, Lamonte Johnson, and Corey Childs, 3 other kind of defensive end D-line guys that will complement Moore and Tao on the defensive front.
Yeah, but those guys, I mean, the thing you have to really look at is who they've played when they've had the majority of those sacks.
That's
it was
true.
against D3 schools.
Yeah, they did play a D3 school and had a big majority of sacks.
They did have a couple good ones. But looking more into the defensive backfield for the Lions, looking at Matt Claggett, who is a senior defensive he's a linebacker. He's their middle linebacker. They play that nickel package, which allows them to have 2 linebackers in the box to help against run defense with those 2 big guys that they have anchoring the middle of that defense. But the 2 middle linebackers that they have, Matt Claggett and Cole Pitts. Cole Pitts he's built more like an outside linebacker in his speed and his ability to cover. But Claggett is definitely that middle linebacker type. 5'9", 215 pounds, I believe that was what it was. 220 pounds, excuse me. 5'11", 5'10", 210 pounds. But he's small, but he's real stocky and he clogs up holes. But he doesn't really have to do a ton of clogging with those 2 big guys in the middle, like you said, the 2 outside guys. He plays pretty well in that box, but he has to move more outside tonight, and that's going to be one of his biggest things is Pitts being able to play the edges and him being able to clog up that middle when Shackelford and guys like that are running up the middle, and especially Washington and Petrie getting to the outside. He's going to have to help out on the outside because they're big guys in the middle can't do all of it for him in the run game. And I don't know if they'll have enough pressure to completely take the pass game out of tonight's game for the Javelinas. So we might see those guys playing a bigger role tonight. Their defensive backs haven't had a ton of production from those guys. Definitely nothing like their defensive line has. But the biggest thing is going to be those 2 linebackers really making an impact on the edges with Petrie and especially Shackelford.
Yeah.
And even Shackelford moving out there and being able to run on the edges. So we might see a little bit of that.
To complement that real quick, Ken was saying, they've made some plays, but not consistent. But they do have 4 defensive touchdowns on the season.
That's
so in
true,
5 games, 4 defensive touchdowns is big. I mean, that's a free 24 points. Yeah, they've had some forced fumbles and a decent amount of interceptions, but look for them to have to make some big plays tonight and use the wind as a 12th defender against Javelinas.
Definitely.
And we're going to take our first commercial break. We'll be right after this.
Squarely's Liquor is a proud sponsor of Javelina Athletics and the Javelina Broadcast Network. Squirrely's Liquor has the largest selection of craft beer, wine, imports, and cigars in Clayburgh County. Squirrely's Liquor says don't drink and drive. Give them a call at 361-595-1818 or visit them in-store at 1701 South Brahma Boulevard, Suite D in Kingsville, Texas. That's 1701 South Brahma Boulevard, Suite D next to Cowgirl Saloon. Thank you to Squirrely's Liquor.
There is a feeling that goes beyond.
This broadcast is sponsored by GE Bridal Center and the Man Shop Cleaners. They've been proudly serving the Coastal Bend area for over 40 years. GE Bridal Center and the Man Shop Cleaners are both located at 817 South 14th Street in Kingsville, Texas. GE Bridal Center is your complete bridal shop with their great prices and services. The Man Shop rents all sleek and edgy tuxes, making you feel like uptown to downtown. They also do alterations. For more information, call 361-592-7229. Thank you to GE Bridal Center and the Man Shop Cleaners.
There is a feeling that goes beyond the boundaries of the campus at Texas A&M University, Kingsville. A shared sense of pride makes us more than a school. It makes us a nation. The Javelina Nation is a bond that unites all students, faculty, fans, and alumni who have been touched by the oldest, most respected university in South Texas. It's the feeling of knowing you're a part of something larger than yourself. So unite, Javelina Nation. Together there is nothing we cannot do.
Hi, and welcome back to the Pepsi Pregame Show. Guys, we talked about how the offense for the Lions is the polar of the Javelina deep offense with their passing game. What will the Lion offense look like when we see Tyreek Rollison bring the Lions out for the first drive?
Well, Tyreek Rollison, for those of you who haven't seen much LSC football, he's 6'3", 220, junior quarterback. He's a big guy. He actually backed up Cam Newton in his freshman year at Auburn, so he's got quite a bit of talent on it with him. But the thing you're going to see tonight is the pistol offense and the shotgun offense. They're more of a spread you out, throw it deep with their guys on the outside. They have some really, really big threats on the outside. They don't have a ton of tight end pressure or presence, but they do have some guys on the outside that can really run the field and really extend the Javelina secondary and make them work tonight. And it's going to be a big key for them in the run game. If they can extend these guys and really spread them out, make them move that down the field, move that third level of the field all the way down 20, 30 yards down the field, it'll be a big thing for those running backs because they do have some guys that can really make some plays. Tyreek Rollison, we'll start with him. 1469 is the number to know tonight. He is a big game guy. He's played in West Texas, and they put up 28 points, which is a huge number against that team.
Yeah, against
whenever
that
you
Calvert
only
team.
get the ball just a little bit. But 1469 is the total number of yards he has this season. 12 touchdowns, 4 picks on the other hand of that. But when you see how many times they throw, he's already thrown 175 passes. Okay, he's 102 for 175, which is 58%, on the year thus far in passing, and that's an enormous number. So we know he can throw the ball down the field. He's got the ability to get the ball down the field with his deep threats, but that's when he has trouble. He needs to get the ball out of his hand quickly tonight, especially with this wind the way it is. He's going to be looking more for those shorter passes, but he is more accurate when he's got the ball out of his hand quick. He's got these guys on the outside that can really run, really move, and he's got to get it out to them and let them do most of the work tonight because of the way the wind sets them up. It's in their pass-heavy offense. It's going to be short passes, and this pistol's really set up for them to do that. And especially in the shotgun, they're going to have to get these sweeps and jet sweeps. So we'll have to see the Javelina defense really protect those edges and the Javelina secondary really step up tonight.
Yeah. On the running end of things, like you said, Ken, they're not looking to run. I mean, they're not, as you said, they run maybe designed run play 25, 30% of the time. And it's a true freshman. Kai Jonathan Garrett. I mean, he's kind of been quiet in a sense, but he's been their leading rusher. They only have 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, and he's got all 3 of them. But he's ran the ball 58 times for 196 yards, 3.4 yards per carry, which isn't real great. But as we said, I mean, they only have 72 rushing yards per game, and that's last in the Lone Star Conference because they're looking to pass with Tyreek Rollison, as you said.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see him tonight, and they're going to need to establish something with Garrett, if to really move the ball against the Javelinas. But they just really haven't shown that all season. That kind of puts pressure on Rollison. Rollison on the other end. He's been sacked 19 times this season. 19 times, which is a pretty heavy number in 5 games. I mean, that's almost 4 sacks a game. And he still has managed to rush for positive yards. Only 33 yards, though, but still being sacked 19 times and having positive yards on the season he is able to roll out and able to have that athleticism and elusiveness to extend plays. And he doesn't like doing it, though. I mean, that's when his 4 interceptions on the season, that's when they've happened, him kind of being pressured and forcing stuff. So with that being said, the offensive line plays a key factor tonight for the Lions offense, mainly because they're not designed to really have pulling guards or set up run plays, but more to set up a pocket for Rollison to have the success, as Ken said, in the pocket, because that's what they like to do. I mean, he's a pocket passing type quarterback. Real quick. But yeah, so we won't see a lot of running tonight, especially against a strong Javelina defensive line. But maybe with this win tonight, being as strong as it is, I guarantee it's probably some of the strongest win they played in the season. Definitely look to maybe see a little more running, a chance to, than used to from Lions.
We might see Vernon Johnson, who is that big play receiver I was talking about a minute ago. We might see him really have to step up in the rushing game. He doesn't have a ton of rushes. They don't like to do that a lot. But thus far through the season, he has 24 receptions for 492 yards, 6 touchdowns by himself. Wow. This guy's incredible to watch. I mean,
he's definitely their playmaker.
If you want to watch tonight, that guy's the one to watch.
He's first in the LSC actually in receiving yards per game as well as receptions per game. So.
On the other side of that, Seth Smith, who's going to be the opposite of him, and they might line them up on the same side. Watch out for that, because that's going to be a dangerous side of the field. Right. Seth Smith, 19 receptions for 213 yards. He's their second in receptions guy. Not really their biggest receiver and not really their big threat guy down the field, but whenever you see Vernon Johnson and Seth Smith on the same side, that's going to be a big number. The other 2 guys to watch out for, Stacey Howard and Taylor Pisha. We don't really have much on these guys because they're about the same as Smith, but they do get the job done. Those will be the slot guys, and they will play a big part in this game tonight, being right around the middle of that field.
Now, real quick, a little bit of stats on the Lion offense. They have 35.8 points per game, 72 rushing yards per game, 313 passing yards per game, 385 total yards, and 8 offensive touchdowns and 10 defensive touchdowns. We saw against West Texas how the wind played a huge factor in both offenses. Is tonight going to be any different?
Probably not. I mean, it's going to be similar with that wind. I mean, we're going to see, Dustin Vaughn for West Texas A&M is amazing, and it kind of puts Rollison in a shadow right now. He's second pretty much in every category and still nationally ranked as a quarterback. But yeah, the Javelina defense is going to have to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, it's kind of tough tonight.
It's going to be tough.
Keeping up
the defensive line of the Javelinas is going to be a big strength tonight. They're really going to have to put pressure on Rollison and the rest of the Lion offense. But that's led by Mark Sevier. He's got 28 tackles for the Javelinas this season. It's the team leader. 3.5 tackles for loss. He's got a sack and a clutch forced fumble. Robert Williams, Zane Brown, and Ricky Marshall are also some clutch guys we're going to see tonight. Robert Williams, 24 tackles. That's tied with Zane Brown, who also has 24 tackles. But to go along with that, Robert Williams has 4.5 tackles for loss. He also has an interception. Zane Brown, he's a real physical guy, number 99. You'll see him tonight, one of the captains. Like I said, he's got 24 tackles as well, 5 tackles for loss to go along with a sack. And I said Ricky Marshall. Ricky Marshall it's an interesting position. You'll see him on the line a little bit. You'll see him drop back kind of as a linebacker. It's like an anchor position. But he's had a pretty solid season as well. 15 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hurries. So the defensive line of the Javelinas is really going to have to put pressure and try to make Rollison get that ball off against that wind.
Yeah, definitely. And the guys you're going to have to watch out for in the backfield of the Javelinas secondary is going to be Anthony Forker, who's probably going to be matched up tonight with their big play receiver on the other side in Vernon Johnson. So we might see him making a big impact on the game tonight. And then that linebacking core, they're going to be the ones that really have to make this happen, because they like to run these little short routes, as we said, and they're going to have to be the ones that really protect the edges from these running backs and really make a big impact on the outsides for the Javelinas.
And a little bit of stats on the Javelina defense. They give up 39.5 points per game, allow 365 yards per game, 165 rushing, and 200 passing. Both teams have lost to the same LSC opponents, but it seemed like the Lions did better than the Javelinas. What do you think played the biggest role in that?
And the biggest role in both of their defeats on those 2 teams?
Why the Lions looked better in those defeats? Because they didn't lose it by as much.
The Lions have guys that are more, consistent at positions. We haven't seen consistency with the Javelina offense compared to the Lion offense. True. I mean, you've got Rollison, who's literally taken 95% of the snaps, and the Javelinas have quarterbacks that maybe have some snaps here, snaps there, snaps there. So, you know, the team chemistry has really helped. But moving along with that, we get to special teams real quick. Special teams was a big factor last week for the Javelinas. And so, but for the Lions, they bring in a junior kicker, Saul Martinez, not one of the most consistent kickers we've seen. 4 for 6 on the season with field goals. His longest is only 34. That's a 17-yard line. So I'd feel pretty confident as a Javelina defense keeping them out of the red zone for them to probably go for it. I mean, with the wind tonight, we might see him try to use that wind to maybe make some longer field goals. But their punter, Cameron Frost, got quite a leg. He's punted 32 times, an average of 40 yards. So look for him to pin the Javelinas down in some field position. And Ronnie Fields, the defensive back, he's returned to punt this season and also has 15.8 yards per punt return, which is 16th in the nation.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a second commercial break. We'll be back right after this.
Squarely's Liquor is a proud sponsor of Javelina Athletics. Squarely's Liquor is a proud sponsor of Javelina Athletics and the Javelina Broadcast Network. Squarely's Liquor has the largest selection of craft beer, wine, imports, and cigars in Clayburgh County. Squarely's Liquor says don't drink and drive. Give them a call at 361-595-1818 or visit them in-store at 1701 South Brahma Boulevard, Suite D in Kingsville, Texas. That's 1701 South Brahma Boulevard, Suite D next to Cowgirl Saloon. Thank you to Squarely's Liquor.
There is a feeling that goes beyond the boundaries of the campus at Texas A&M University, Kingsville. A shared sense of pride makes us more than a school. It makes us a nation. The Javelina Nation is a bond that unites all students, faculty, fans, and alumni who have been touched by the oldest, most respected university in South Texas. It's the feeling of knowing you're a part of something larger than yourself. So unite, Javelina Nation. Together there is nothing we cannot do.
Texas A&M Kingsville College of Business Administration, educating students for the business of tomorrow. Whether you're a recent graduate or a practicing professional, a master's degree of business administration will forever enhance your business skills and improve your footing on the corporate ladder. With the distance option and a supportive and accessible team of faculty, staff, and advisor, our online MBA provides a broad skill set and the opportunity to specialize. To learn more about our MBA program, visit tamook.edu/CBA or call 361-593-2501.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
Hi, and we're back for the Pepsi pregame show. Now, we've been over every perspective for both teams. Now, guys, Denver, actually, what is the keys to victory for the Lions tonight?
Well, Commerce hasn't won a game here at Texas A&M University Kingsville since 2001, and they haven't won a road game in Texas since 2006. So some big things going to have to take advantage of. They're going to have to win the war in the trenches. We talk about the trenches every week, but they're really going to have to not allow that strong line of the Javelinas to penetrate through, and they need to give Rawlson some time to throw. That being said, the offensive line has to allow him to really step in the pocket and not get flustered, and especially when they have the wind, when the wind's blowing their way, they really need to take advantage of using the arm and the skill of Rawlson and take advantage of this younger, not weaker, but younger secondary of the Javelinas.
Right, and Ken, what are the keys to victory for the Javelinas?
Well, obviously, first of all, it's going to be getting a passing game going. Their biggest problem thus far has been not being able to throw the ball consistently to anybody and getting the ball into the hands of Robert Armstrong, who is their biggest playmaker by far. So we're going to have to see that, and we're going to have to see a more consistent run game from these guys. We've seen them run the ball so-so thus far, but the biggest thing for them is going to be getting a running game going. And, you know, the wind we saw against West Texas was a big factor, and as Denver said, it's going to be a big factor. And special teams, I mean, we saw Angel Mian, who's a senior, last week get taken out and replaced with Matt Stoll, who's also one of the senior kickers. And that's going to be the big thing, is special teams is going to play a key role tonight, especially with the wind, the way it is. I mean, you can see us. We're getting blown around out here like it's a hurricane. But we saw against West Texas the inability to throw the ball with Aaron Bueno. And we can just only basically hope tonight that they take advantage of the times when they do have the ball and the wind at their back. So
exactly.
that's going to be the things tonight that the Javelinas have to do to win the game.
Right, and with that being said, who's your pick for tonight, Denver?
Well, Ashlyn, as I said, Javelinas have been real strong here at home against Commerce. They've done a great job against them. I think after these last 2 weeks going 0-2 in LSC play, I'll say this is a week Javelinas break it. Javelinas win 34-33.
And there you have it. Thanks for tuning in for the Pepsi pregame show. I'm Ashlyn Tovar. Good night.